If you've clicked on this video, then something deep within you already senses it. The version of you that's been surviving on autopilot is ready to be released, not in body, but in energy. And that awareness, it's not coming from your logical mind, it's a signal from your quantum field, pulling you toward a higher version of yourself. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you're surrounded by an invisible energetic framework, one that's been looping the same thoughts, behaviors, and identity over and over. It's not just habit, it's encoded into the very structure of your reality, at the quantum level. Ever noticed how the more you try to change, the more things seem to stay the same? Or wondered why some people experience massive transformation seemingly overnight, while others spend years stuck in the same cycles? The answer isn't just psychological, it's quantum. Physicists call it the observer effect. Ancient mystics called it the unraveling of the ego. It's the moment when your awareness shifts deeply that it causes your reality to reconfigure itself. This is the death of the false self, a measurable, energetic shift, where the outdated patterns begin to dissolve. And in that something powerful happens, reality bends. The universe starts recalibrating to match the new frequency you're stepping into. But most people never reach this point, because they're unknowingly resisting the exact process that makes it possible. They're trying to add new habits to the old self. They're trying to improve the old identity. They're trying to upgrade the old programs. But what if I told you that this approach is like trying to tune a radio to a new station while keeping the old frequency playing at the same time? The mystics of Tibet have a phrase: you cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. Modern neuroscience has proven this ancient wisdom. Dr. Zhou Dispenza's research at the HeartMath Institute shows that when we truly let go of our old identity, our brain literally rewires itself in real time. The neural pathways that kept us locked in old patterns begin to dissolve and new networks form that align with our highest potential. But here's what they don't tell you in the self-help books. This quantum shift doesn't happen gradually. It doesn't happen through willpower or positive thinking. It happens in a moment of complete surrender. What? Quantum physicists call quantum decoherence, where the old you literally stops existing as a probability in the quantum field. Are you one of the rare souls who's ready to experience this? Because what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes will challenge everything you think you know about change, about identity, and about the very nature of reality itself. You're about to discover why letting go isn't just a spiritual concept. It's a quantum necessity for accessing higher dimensions of existence. The question is, are you ready to stop trying to fix the old you and start allowing the real you to emerge from the quantum field of infinite possibility? To understand why letting go is the only path to quantum transformation, we need a journey into the deepest mysteries of consciousness itself. Every morning when you wake up, you're not just opening your eyes. You're collapsing infinite possibilities into a single reality. You're choosing at a subconscious level which version of yourself will exist in this dimension today. But here's what's happening that most people never realize. Every time you choose to be the same person you were yesterday, every time you react from the same emotional patterns, every time you make decisions from the same limited beliefs, you're not just maintaining the status quo. You're actively creating what quantum physicists call a probability wave collapse that locks you deeper into that particular timeline. Think about it this way. In the quantum field, all possibilities exist simultaneously. The version of you that's confident, abundant, and living your highest purpose exists right now in what scientists call a superposition state. But so does the version of you that's stuck, fearful, and repeating the same patterns. The act of observation, your consciousness choosing which reality to experience, is what makes one possibility real and causes the others to fade into the background. This is where ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science converge in the most beautiful way. The Vedic texts speak of Maya, the illusion of the separate self. Buddhist teachings point to anatta, the non-existence of a fixed identity. What these traditions understood thousands of years ago, quantum mechanics is now proving in labs around the world. Your identity, the person you think you are, is not a fixed thing. It is a collection of repeated thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. These have created what neuroscientists call neural super high. They're the grooves in your brain that make certain patterns automatic, effortless. They are so ingrained, they begin to feel like you. But here is the revelation that changes everything. Those neural superhighs, those patterns that feel permanent, exist only because you keep choosing them. They have power because you keep energizing them with attention, emotion, and identity. The precise moment you stop identifying with those patterns, something miraculous happens at the quantum level. The wave function, holding that version of reality in place, begins to decohere. The old you starts to dissolve, not as destruction, but as liberation. This is why every spiritual tradition speaks of death and rebirth. This is why the hero's journey includes surrender, a descent into the unknown. It is not merely metaphorical, it is quantum mechanical. The old self must die so the new self can emerge from a field of infinite potential. But most people misunderstand letting go. They think it means losing something. They think it means giving up parts of themselves. They approach it with fear, resistance, and scarcity. What if I told you that what you think is you is the smallest, most limited version of who you really are? You are not losing your true self. You are shedding the prison, hiding it. You are not releasing your power. You are releasing the illusions, blocking your power. You are not surrendering your identity. You are releasing the false identity that prevented your authentic self from shining. And this is only the beginning. What I will reveal next shows how this quantum process works, why it feels challenging, and how to navigate it with grace. Once you understand the mechanics of consciousness transformation, you will see letting go is not something you do. It is something you allow. Pause. Now, feel the energy moving through your body as you absorb these words. There is something shifting, isn't there? Something that wasn't present when you started watching. That is not imagination. That is your quantum field beginning to recalibrate. What you experience now is what physicists call quantum entanglement. With higher possibilities, the information you received is not just entering conscious thought. It is activating dormant potentials in your DNA. It is awakening cellular memories of who you truly are beyond the limitations you accepted as reality. Feel a slight expansion in your chest, a gentle loosening of what's been held tight for so long. That is the beginning of decoherence. Old patterns lose their grip on your energy field. Your nervous system begins to attune to a higher frequency version of you. This version exists beyond the boundaries of who you think you are. This is sacred ground. This moment of recognition is a stirring of possibility. Ancient traditions call this the threshold. Modern neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity activation. What it truly is your soul remembering its nature. Do not try to understand it with your mind. Let your being absorb it. Let your cells receive it. Let your quantum field integrate it. What happens now prepares you for what comes next. Deeper revelations that teach how to work with this energy, not against it. Dr. Amit Goswami, quantum physicist and consciousness researcher, has studied what he calls quantum consciousness for decades. His work revealed something extraordinary. When we let go of identification with old patterns, our brain waves synchronize with the quantum self, a higher dimensional aspect of consciousness that exists beyond space and time. This is not only modern science discovering territory. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, written 1,000 years ago, describes in detail stages of consciousness during the bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. What's remarkable is that their descriptions of ego dissolution and identity transformation match what neuroscientists observe in brain scans during deep meditative states. Dr. Evan Alexander, the neurosurgeon who had a near-death experience, describes a journey into what he calls the core, a realm of consciousness where individual identity dissolves into pure awareness. His scientific mind struggled to comprehend what his consciousness experienced, a state where letting go of the self led to expansion into something infinitely larger. The Sufi mystic Rumi wrote, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" What he understood, and what quantum consciousness research now suggests, is that our limited identity is not who we are. It is who we were conditioned to believe we are. In Hindu tradition, there is moksha, liberation from the cycle of suffering. Moksha does not come through gaining something new. It comes through releasing the illusion of separateness. Modern physicists like Carlo Rovelli and Sean Carroll show that At the quantum level, separateness is an illusion. Everything is interconnected. Everything is one unified field of consciousness. Zen Master Dogen taught that enlightenment is dropping off body and mind, not destroying them, but releasing identification with them as the totality of who you are. Recent studies show that during deep letting go experiences, activity in the brain's default mode network, responsible for self-referential thinking, dramatically decreases. At the same time, areas associated with unity consciousness become more active. Here is what changes everything about how we approach transformation. The letting go process is not random. It follows specific laws, patterns, and stages that can be understood and navigated with wisdom. 3 years ago, I sat in my car at 2:00 a.m. outside a 24-hour diner, crying tears that felt like they came from the deepest parts of my soul. I had just walked away from everything that defined who I thought I was. My career, my relationship, my entire sense of identity. Everything that made me feel secure, successful, socially acceptable. For months, I felt a strange pull, an inner knowing that the life I lived was not aligned with who I was becoming. Every time I considered change, fear flooded my mind. What will people think? How will I survive? You're throwing your life away. That night, in the parking lot, I realized something profound. Those were not my fears. They were the fears of the old version of me, the version that needed external validation to feel worthy, the version that believed security came from controlling outcomes, the version that thought identity was job, relationship, possessions. In that complete breakdown, something extraordinary happened. I stopped trying to figure it out. I stopped managing the situation. I stopped trying to be strong. I let go completely. I surrendered to the unknown with every cell in my being. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew. Within weeks, opportunities appeared I could not have imagined. People entered my life who matched my authentic path. Resources materialized in almost magical ways. The most profound change was internal. I began to experience life from a different frequency. Where I used to feel anxious, I felt excited. Where I used to feel limited, I felt infinite. Where I used to feel separate, I felt deeply connected to something vast and loving. That's when I understood what mystics meant by death and rebirth. That's when I saw why surrender is the doorway to liberation. The old me did not evolve into the new me. The old me dissolved. The new me emerged from an entirely different level of consciousness. This is not only my story, it is the story of every soul that has experienced true transformation. And if you're watching, it is calling to become your story. The quantum field revealed to me, in that moment of surrender, what I now share with others. The path is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you always were beneath conditioning and fear. And that remembering begins with letting go. If something in my story stirred your soul, if you felt possibility in your quantum field, you are ready to go deeper. Subscribe now, because here we explore the deepest quantum reflections of consciousness. We dive into hidden mechanics of reality most never discover. This is where seekers become finders, where possibilities become realities, where your quantum reflex reveals your true nature. How do you know when a quantum shift begins in your life? The universe communicates through signs, synchronicities, subtle shifts in reality. Most people miss these signals because they expect dramatic changes. The first sign I call divine dissatisfaction. You feel restless with things that once satisfied you. Your job may be fine, but it no longer lights you up. Your relationships are comfortable but do not inspire growth. Daily routines feel empty even though nothing changed. This is not depression. It is your soul outgrowing its current container. You begin questioning things you never questioned before. Why this job? We, these city, these people. These are not rebellious thoughts. They are consciousness preparing for expansion. Another sign, our reality glitches. Number sequences appear repeatedly, -1111. 333,555. You think of someone right before they call? Dreams feel more real than waking life. These are not coincidences. They show your consciousness operating from a higher dimensional frequency. Pay attention to how your body responds to people and places. Old. You may have ignored these signals, pushed through discomfort, rationalized staying. As you attune to higher frequencies, your body becomes an exquisite guidance system. Expansion feels light, energizing, spacious. Contraction feels heavy, draining, restrictive. Old patterns may amplify before they dissolve. Consciousness researcher David Hawkins called this the final purgation. Your habitual ways of thinking and reacting may intensify and become more obvious. This is not regression. It is visibility, so they can be released. Another sign is quantum mentors appearing. People who reflect your highest potential enter your life. Books fall into your hands at the right moment. Divinely timed conversations occur. Opportunities align with your deepest values. The universe reorganizes itself around your emerging truth, but the deepest test confirms the shift. The dark night of the soul. Everything that gave life meaning feels empty. Everything that once provided security feels unstable. Everything you turned to for identity feels foreign. This is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. It is your consciousness expanding beyond the old self. The caterpillar dissolving in the cocoon before the butterfly emerges. Here is the piece I did not tell you yet. There is a specific moment in the letting go process where many turn back. A threshold that, once crossed, makes transformation irreversible. A choice that determines whether you complete the shift or remain trapped between worlds. Ancient alchemists called this the negredo, the blackening. Everything dissolves before rebirth. Modern neuroscience calls it the neural gap. The space between the death of old neural pathways and the birth of new ones. Quantum physicists call it the collapse point. The moment one reality ends and another begins. This moment happens many times during transformation. Each time deeper, each time requiring greater faith, trust, and willingness to enter the unknown. There is something else that determines how quickly and gracefully you complete the shift. A principle hidden in mystical teachings, encoded in quantum theories, and reflected in transformation stories. What is this principle? What is the secret that separates those who transform from those who remain stuck? What unlocks your highest timeline? I will reveal it in a moment. But first, you must understand what happens in your brain, body, and energy field when you truly let go. When you stop protecting and improving the limited self, your nervous system reorganizes coherently. Every system in your body functions with greater efficiency and harmony. Your stress response recalibrates. Fight or flight dissolves. Cortisol levels normalize. Heart rate variability increases. Your immune system strengthens. You experience inner peace that does not depend on external conditions. Remember the parking lot story? The months that followed were the most peaceful of my life. Not because everything was perfect, but because I stopped fighting reality. I stopped exhausting myself, forcing outcomes. I stopped depleting energy, maintaining an inauthentic identity. Cognitive function transforms when you stop using mental energy to maintain old patterns. Your mind becomes clear, creative, and intuitive. Problems that once seemed impossible suddenly reveal obvious solutions. Creative ideas flow effortlessly. Decision-making becomes simple because you are aligned with truth rather than fear. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research on epigenetics shows this clearly. When we change our beliefs about who we are, we literally change which genes are expressed in the body. The genes associated with stress, aging, and disease become less active. The genes linked with vitality, regeneration, and health become more active. You are not just changing psychology, you are changing biology. But the most profound benefit is what spiritual traditions call the direct experience of your true nature, beyond conditioning, beyond limitation, beyond the stories about who you are supposed to be. This is not an intellectual concept. It is a living reality you experience in every moment. You begin to live from what mystics call beginner's mind, a state of freshness, wonder, and openness to possibility. You stop approaching life through past wounds and future fears. You respond to each moment with presence, authenticity, and love. Relationships transform. You are no longer trying to get something from others to complete yourself. You no longer seek validation, security, or identity from the outside. You love from fullness, not from emptiness. You give from abundance, not from scarcity. And just as in my own journey, opportunities appear that align perfectly with your authentic gifts and deepest values. Money flows more easily because you no longer block abundance with limiting beliefs about worthiness. Health improves because you are no longer creating illness through inner conflict. Creativity explodes because you stop censoring your authentic expression. But perhaps most importantly, you develop what I call quantum trust, an unshakable faith in the intelligence of life itself. You know, at the deepest level, that everything is happening for your highest good, that the universe is conspiring to help you fulfill your greatest potential. You realize letting go isn't about losing anything. It is about gaining everything. Pause with me for a moment. Really, pause. What if everything you've been taught about growth has been backwards? What if the path to your highest potential is not about adding more, doing more, becoming more, but about releasing, surrendering, letting go of everything that is not authentically you? What if the struggles, the resistance, the failure of lasting change all exist because you've been trying to transform while still holding on to the very identity that needs to dissolve? Think about your own life. How much energy are you spending trying to manage, control, and improve while staying essentially the same person? How much effort goes into changing your external world while your inner world remains unchanged? What would happen if you stopped? What would happen if you simply let go? Not letting go of responsibilities, not letting go of your care for others, not letting go of your authentic desires and dreams, but letting go of the need to be who you think you are supposed to be. What if the person you are trying so hard to become is actually a smaller version of who you already are at your core? What if, beneath conditioning and fear, there is a version of you that is whole, perfect, and connected to infinite intelligence and love? This is not speculation. It is the direct experience every mystic describes. It is the truth quantum physics points toward. The transformation becomes possible the moment you stop trying to improve the false self and start allowing the true self to emerge. The caterpillar does not try to become a better caterpillar. It does not go to caterpillar therapy or set caterpillar goals. It surrenders so completely to transformation that its entire being dissolves, and something new emerges, something that was always its potential, but could never manifest while it insisted on staying a caterpillar. What if your struggles, your dissatisfaction, your longing are not signs something is wrong with you? What if they are signs that something is so right with you that your soul refuses to settle for less than your full potential? What if this very moment is the beginning of your quantum shift? What if reading these words, feeling these possibilities, sensing this truth, is your consciousness preparing for the most beautiful transformation of your life? The only question is, are you ready? Ready to trust the process? Ready to let go of who you think you are and discover who you have always been? But listen carefully. What I've shared so far is only the foundation. It is preparation for something deeper. 4 dimensions of transformation most people never imagined possible. When you complete this letting go, you enter levels of consciousness that connect you to abilities, insights, and experiences that many would call impossible. The ancients called them siddhis, natural abilities that emerge when consciousness is no longer limited by the separate self. Modern physics now points to the same truth. Consciousness shapes reality at the quantum level. In the videos to come, I will take you further into what happens when the quantum shift is complete. When you fully embody the authentic self, when you begin to operate from unity consciousness, you will see how consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it creates Italiano. You will learn quantum field techniques that allow manifestation from a completely different level of being. You will understand why synchronicities multiply, why intuition amplifies, and why your very presence elevates the consciousness of those around you. But you must understand, these are not special powers, they are natural abilities. They are the birthright of consciousness itself. The question is, how far are you willing to go? How deep are you willing to dive? How completely are you willing to let go of everything you think you know about yourself and what is possible? Because what comes next will challenge every assumption you have ever held about reality, consciousness, and your role in this quantum universe. And as we close this moment together, I want to leave you with a mystery. The version of you that began this video is not the same as the version hearing these words now. Something has shifted. Something has awakened. Something has been activated at a cellular, energetic, quantum level. You may not feel dramatically different. The change may be subtle, but your higher self knows. The universe knows. And here is the mystery. The fact that you found this video, stayed until this point, and feel resonance in your soul right now is no coincidence. Your quantum field has been orchestrating this moment, guiding you to this recognition, preparing you for the choice between the old self and the true self. So I leave you with this question. What if the quantum shift is not something that will happen to you? What if it is something already happening through you? What if letting go is not something you do, but something you are? What if the old you was never real? What if who you think you are is just a temporary dream, and who you really are is the dreamer awakening? The answers will not be found in more analyses. They will be found in silence, in the space between thoughts, in the love that exists before all experience. This is where the real journey begins. If you are still here, then something irreversible has been set in motion. The quantum shift is no longer an idea. It is a living reality beginning to unfold in your life. The old you woke up this morning at one level of consciousness. The you hearing these words exists at another. This is just the beginning. The activation we shared today is a seed. What determines its growth is how you move forward in the hours and days ahead. Your highest timeline is calling. Your authentic self is waiting to emerge fully into this reality. Choose the next step. Trust the calling, and remember, you are not just watching transformation. You are becoming it.